I have warned consistently about increasing central government control and about greater global control, all started off by the UN. We've discussed at length global treaties, legislation and governments all working in lockstep to deliver Agenda 30. And to some of the people, this is still a long way off and a bit abstract maybe, and it also probably doesn't affect their everyday lives yet. The people who are unconcerned about any of this, though, are probably those who already have quite a lot of government interaction. Perhaps they work for the state, get benefits from the state, or simply prefer greater state control anyway, and we know there's lots of people like that. But what I wanted to show you is the rapid increase in control groundwork being laid within the government. I've already had an AI rant, and although we did touch on the introduction of digital ID, CBDCs, social credit systems, we didn't look at how that was actually progressing inside government. Let's do that today. Legislative frameworks are in place. The Data Use and Access Act, the Police Crime, Sentencing and Courts Act, and even the Online Safety Act all cover various aspects of information tagged to you. Mostly they deal with how you'll be punished for stepping out of line. But what is actually happening with your data? What's being discussed that you don't know about, and how quickly is it all coming together then? Because it was never about the public saying no to digital ID. It was always unstoppable in their eyes. Step one, of course, was a single sign-in for the state, so gov.uk. One login replaces a patchwork of old logins like Government Gateway. And with one identity check that you do once and you reuse everywhere, sounds brilliant, really convenient. But it's also the master key to everything else. Alongside that sits a rule book called the UK Digital Identity and Attributes Trust Framework, big mouthful. Plus the government quango behind it called the Office for Digital Identities and Attributes. This is in place so that certified providers can vouch for your identity or your attributes, and everyone else can rely on it. Let me explain this. It means that lots of companies providing digital ID services can just check with the government that you are who you say you are, like banks, councils, departments. So one verified you will open many doors. Now, the Data Use and Access Act was introduced in late 2024 to unlock the secure and effective use of data, including formal digital ID services and the wider smart data schemes like open banking really, but for sectors like energy, telecoms, transport, retail. This is how the consumer and public service data all starts interacting by government design. Now, energy is already within this scope. The government has been taking evidence on an energy smart data scheme, right? They're deciding how customer usage and their account data could be used to help consumers. Really? Because they've also got another quango, don't they? Which is trying to decide how best to hook up all that AI energy needed for data sheds. So to me, it's more like it could turn into a permissions-based system, a bit like in Colorado last year, when energy companies remotely controlled what temperature everybody's thermostats were set to, overriding those consumers' choices. The government also has another new department called the Integrated Data Service, and that's sat within the ONS, another quango. This is a secure cross-government environment. So think about that as the government's internal intranet, specifically set up to link different bits of data just for analysis. So this is the place where they join all the dots of everything about you. It becomes normal practice under their controls. And there are lots of controls that are in place to protect you, but it doesn't mean they can't do it. It just means there's lots of paperwork they have to fill out if they want to. And there are other named programs in place within the government already joining all those dots about you. One called Longitudinal Educational Outcomes links education records to HMRC and DWP to study earnings and employment and education. So tax benefits on a person level. Apparently this is all de-identified and it's just for research. The Ministry of Justice has a Data First programme which links courts, prisons, probation and enhances it by joining with the Department of Education's National Pupil Database just to study pathways and outcomes. Yeah, useful until you've been written off for life because you wore a MAGA hat age 10, or perhaps you wore a Union Jack dress to school on Cultural Day. Then the ONS has linked the 2021 census to DWP HMRC, just for health and labour market analysis. So the census can be joined with the NHS health and economic data sets in control projects. It's not even hypothetical, it's documented. The Law Enforcement Data Service is replacing the old Police National Computer, with the Home Office describing it as a future platform for supplying data to policing and authorised agencies. And at the same time, the Home Office Biometrics programme is consolidating fingerprint, DNA and face matching with common services. So don't say anything the government doesn't like, because they've got it all. The DVLA explicitly states it shares driving licence data with third parties where the law allows, and its data sharing strategy explicitly highlights the capability to combine and share data sets for public and private motoring needs. Okay, so that could be what days you're allowed to drive on, or if you've bought an electric car yet, and what fines or nudging you might need to force you to do so. And the legal plumbing for interdepartment sharing now exists. Part 5 of the Digital Economy Act 2017 provides formal gateways for data sharing for public service delivery, fraud and debt. And then there's a public register of information sharing agreements showing who shares what under which power. The UK is quietly wiring together a full digital public infrastructure. Now, before we think about what an authoritarian government could do with all of this data, let's consider that it is not an entirely crap idea for a government of 70 million people to have good data at its fingertips for, yes, running better services, providing the right sort of funding for schools in certain areas, knowing how many potholes there are, right? But you've seen the direction of travel. We're already arresting 30 people a day for saying things your government and police don't like. We have more facial recognition and surveillance cameras than anywhere other than Beijing. So if you wanted some more control over a messy, badly behaved, non-compliant population, what could you do with all this stuff then? Well, you'd start by turning one login into the master switch for everyday life. Everything hangs off your account standing, right? Benefits, tax refunds, licenses, student finance, passport renewal, DBS checks, NHS appointments, everything hangs off your login. And one red flag, as simple as an expired verification, or let's say there was an accident, you spelt your name wrong, so it's a mismatch, or an unpaid parking fine, or let's say there's a safety report on one of your social media posts, and the system doesn't dock points like it does in China. It just quietly downgrades you to computer says no. Because identity is federated, that single red mark on your account cascades through departments. So you'd get messages like no renewal or under review or insufficient verification pop-ups whenever you try and buy something or do something. You're not actually banned. You're just kept in computer limbo. And these systems are automated, no human to intervene on your behalf. And then, of course, the government lets smart data do the hard work for it. It's sold as convenient for you, but it's perfect for non-compliance control. Energy can be rationed based on your usage. Broadband gets traffic managed for accounts with red flags. You know, the ones with the naughty opinions. Or road pricing depends on your amount of usage and your postcode and what sort of car you drive. And if you have an old banger because you have refused to upgrade to an EV, well, you'll just pay more road tax than anybody else. Public transport discounts could be withheld if your sustainability profile slips. Nobody needs to argue with you. Bills and the restrictions just climb until you comply. So government programs like longitudinal education outcomes, data first, secure data environments, all build towards rolling household permissions per person and per household. Your work stability, your attendance, your health, your engagement, travel patterns, even your associations. The computer model decides who gets housing, school places, business grants, who meets the criteria based on how well you have behaved and what your single U file says about you. Because the logic AI sits inside sealed departments, who can you argue with? The computer just says no, you can't audit the decision, you know. You only see the outcome. Sorry, not eligible at this time. Then add in law enforcement data service and biometrics, and even your movements become programmable. Facial recognition alerts authorities when you're near a restricted zone for you. Perhaps it's a protest, and it triggers auto fines, stop and checks, and even pre-attendance arrests. And then, if we join health to the rest of the list, the sanctions get more subtle. So public health status becomes a permission for things like starting school, going into care homes, visas, public sector jobs. If you miss appointments, you refuse a vaccine, or you refuse a health intervention, then your priority is changed. I don't think the computer is ever going to say no because you didn't have a vaccine. It might just say, please complete the following steps before you can enroll your child in the Girl Guides. Because private firms are told to trust government-verified ID, your status and your exclusion spreads. So banking could be affected. That red flag against your name in one department could mean banks can't complete your verification. Perhaps insurers could decline insurance to you based on your risk profile. Landlords and employers could see a red flag and choose an easier applicant. No minister bans you. The police no longer bother arresting you because the system and its interconnected pipes have got it all sorted. You are totally under control. Local government will fit neatly into that national system, so it could pause grants or planning permission. Essentially, you'll be guilty until the red flag is removed. And finally, speech control. Well, that stops looking like censorship, right? And it just starts looking like consequences. So you can say whatever you like, but the consequences are a red flag, stopping you at passport control, stopping you from hiring a car, maybe even from shopping. If they tie identity to platforms and harmful content, well then, what you say online will affect offline life through the same verification rails. Yeah? Once the sharing pipes exist, identity, legal gateways, linkage, smart devices all work together and you can't turn it off. Although there are what's called guardrails within all these frameworks, programs, departments, quangos that the government has set up, supposedly to protect citizens' rights, nothing is written in any legislation or document to prevent any of these so-called guardrails from being stripped away by this government or a future government, even by a single statutory instrument. So when they sell you digital ID to prevent illegal migration, understand they are absolutely lying to you. The frameworks are all built. The programs are all in place. It's all ticking away behind you. How do you feel about it? Did you know all of this had been set up already? What do you think? Let me know. Comment below, like. Until next time.